Yay! White Stag's back in the workshop and I'm reflected in the window over there. Look at that. Right, this is the car that is the brother to mine. Very, very, very close in age. Got a couple of jobs I'm going to do with this car. One of them was a somewhat alarming development of all the smoke leaking out of the loom, specifically around the overdrive cable. Oopsie. Heavy steering. Now, if you remember, we had this problem before on this car. So the steering is woefully heavy. The power steering pump is working. Steering wheel is slightly smaller, but really it shouldn't be as heavy as it is. So if you would remember, I couldn't get the hub nuts off, the spinner nuts off, and I tried all sorts of things. And bent one bracket. Now the customer went out and bought one of these, and by using a £3 or £5 hammer, he didn't say which, and knocking 7 bells of shit out of it, he managed to get them all to move. So he's lubed those up now, and they now work, and now they're done up tight, but not so tight as you can't get the fucking things undone. Because that's just stupid. Anyway, there's a swear word for you. Edit out, Richard. Yes, what I really want to do is to work on one side at a time, and I need to get the strut out and see what's going on with the top mounting. See if there are shims missing or whatever. I couldn't get the wheels off last time, so I couldn't really get to the bottom of the strut to see what was going on. Heat control valve we've done. Gear stick overdrive wiring we've done. Gear stick rattles. Well, we'll do that as part of the overdrive wiring. Oil filter and change, and also his carburetors. The engine runs beautifully in this thing, by the way. It's a really, really, really sweet installation. It's got tubular manifolds on it, and it goes like stink. So I'm not inclined to piss around with the carbs too much, but that one's got oil in it. That one has got nothing in it. Okay, so that one empties its oil out with boring regularity. As far as the overall condition of the carbs are concerned, I'm going to say that it's running quite rich, but it goes so nicely, and the miles the customer does with it, I'm inclined not to piss around with it too much. Now, I think really what I need to do with this is we need to get this all apart. If you look in here, that has been very, very, very warm. Look at that. Oh dear, that's not beautiful, is it? So I need to get the lower section of this dash out. The window switch is obviously unplug. That switch, we'll need to pull the various wires off it, so I just want to make a note of what's there. We're missing the rubber strip here off the edge of the coin tray. I don't know how he's got that held in there. I think a couple of plastic pry bars are going to be needed to get that out. When it comes to heater control, the hot and cold heater control, well, what's happened here is, let's go down into the footwell. If I can get my camera to rotate, I'll down into the footwell. Someone's kind of bodged it by putting this clip here. Now, it's difficult to know really what to do with that. The heater control cable straps onto the top of the heater unit itself, and the controls are part of the heater unit. So we'll try taking this plate off and see if we can get access to it. But they're not great. They're not easy to get to, and we might need to find a workaround for it. It could well be that the heater valve, which I'll go into, is actually just seized, which is why we can't find an effective way to get the heater cable open and closed. But I'll see if I can engineer a solution for that. I've just noticed, look at the carpet trim on the, I quite like that. I'm not a big fan of the burgundy, purple, whatever it is, but, so when this when the customer bought the car, the entire interior was this kind of shade. It's nicely trimmed in leather, but the whole bloody thing was purple. As you can see, the T-bar, it wants to be black really, doesn't it? It's a bit too purple. If I were, and I've been talking to the customer about this because he's not a big fan of this either. If I were the customer, I'd be looking at getting the T-bar back to black, getting the tonneau cover back to black, the centre console back to black, and it might break it down a little bit and make it bearable. Someone might look at this colour and think, my God, that's the best colour in the world. Yeah, that's your prerogative, that's your taste. But yes. Right, now let us, I'm going to get the trim panel out and I'll see if I can work out where this has failed. But I strongly suspect that where the wires go into the gear stick here is where they failed. And it's chaffed through on the gear stick there. Not pretty, huh? Not pretty at all. That has been awfully hot. Lucky to get well, he's lucky to get away without losing the car on that. I did point out to him there's a couple of things on this that he wasn't aware of. Ooh, that shuts nicely. First and foremost, he's got a battery cut-off switch over there, which could have saved him. Secondly, when he contacted me, I did say pull the fuse out of the fuse box, the Overdrive fuse. It's labelled on the lid there, but it's the one on the far end here. But what I'm going to need to find out is, because obviously the fuse hadn't blown, is how far through the loom that damage has gone. It's not ideal, is it? Really not ideal. But let's have a look. Right, the trim piece came out. It was a bit of a struggle. I might see if I can't put the rubber strip on the back of that before it goes back in again. And then I've undone the two screws here for the centrepiece to come out. It's a bit tighter than it would be normally, but purely because we've got all this extra leather or leatherette or whatever around the edge here. Now, rattling gear knob. Well, that's an easy one to fix. What's happened here is when you put the gear stick on, there's a threaded washer that goes on the top there. So you normally do that a couple of turns, then you do this chappy up until it goes nice and tight. And there's two flats on there to hold that nice and tight, and it stops that from wobbling. So that's one thing fixed, which I knew I'd be able to fix as part of this job. Now, getting this threaded collar out of here they're not the easiest things to get out, I'll be honest. The battery is disconnected at the moment, by the way, and as you know, the fuse is already out. But I need to probably get a pair of circlip pliers in here because it'll have 2 points on it that I can then put into the... let's just take that off because that is just fucking useless. Hopefully the switch has survived. There's a bit of... to melt the copper like that is not ideal, is it? I'm wondering if I've got some switch things for Lucas switch terminals. Let's see if one of those will work. But the answer to that is no. So I bought these to deal with the toggle switches that often have like a slotted bezel around them. So the idea is you put it over the toggle switch and then you can wind them off. But it's just too fat to go in there. So the only way I can get these off then is with a flat blade screwdriver. So they can go back into the drawer. Special tools. And that's not me. Let's get a flat blade screwdriver. Might work, might not. It's the only way I've ever found to get them off in the past. There can be a faff. Now, if you look in here, you can see that there's two flats that a screwdriver might go into, and these are very tight. This might be a two-handed job actually, or I might need to get the needle nose pliers in there to see if I can start it off. Bit WD-40 or release penetrant first of all. When it's apart, I'll show you what it looks like, but with that being like that, I'd expect that to come off easier than that. Right, well, it's very tight, but using these right-angled needle nose pliers, I can grip either side of the nuts, and it's coming off now. I'm not sure if that was the release penetrant or what did that. There it goes. Right, it's off now. So then I just need to wind the last couple of turns. And even now, it's not great. Come on, you bastard. You can see how I'm just using a screwdriver in the slot on the threaded ring for now. I don't know why there was a fanar there, Richard, I really don't. There's a lot of fucking around with this, isn't there? You can see how much fun this is. So when someone says, oh yeah, but just simply remove the ring, fanar, you can have a fanar for that one. Just simply unscrew the ring. This is actually more effective. Just gripping it and turning it, and here it comes. Probably could do it with some normal pliers, but it's just easier to work like this. And I happen to have these in the box, so I thought, you know what, I'll have these. These will do the job. There goes my phone. I don't think I've ever seen a ring this deep. That's another F to edit out. Right, now that is almost off. There we are. There's the threaded ring. Just pop that down. There we go. I don't normally seem to recall them being that deep. Maybe they are. Now that's off, the gear knob comes off. There we are. So there's the gear knob. Nice big metal affair. That can go down there. Then that comes off. And then I can hopefully lift up the centre console, which I'm going to do two-handed, but that comes off. The reason you take this off is because I want the gaiter to come up and over the top of the gear stick. Now there's two screws, one down there, one there, and then oh, that moves nice and easily. There we are. Once that's done, that comes up, little tab down the front end here. I don't know if we can see the front end down there. Let's hold the camera over here. We could do it with the cameraman. Camera woman. I need a camera woman is what I need. We are an equal opportunity employer. Right, okay. Eek. Let me get these switch connectors off, and then if I can keep the window switch intact, then literally all I do is take this off and put it over here somewhere. But I need two hands to do that, because I need to move all this crap out of the way, because I don't want to be scratching the nice veneer on here. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. That has been super fucking hot, hasn't it? It looks like all of the burning has been in this little extension here. That's pretty grim. But you see what I mean about this now? You don't have to disconnect all the switch. That can just sit there like that. And I can work on running new cables up. What I'm going to really need to do here, because of the extent of that level of burning, that looks like speaker wire, doesn't it? Do you think that's speaker wire? I think that might be speaker wire. It's difficult to know for sure because it's all melted. I'll need to trace back in the loom where these two, because I know that those two go to the back of a relay on the relay panel over there, and see if there's any trace of any wiring that's burnt. Now here it doesn't look burnt. You can tell when it looks burnt because it looks like that. And normally the wire, as it heats up, that has been burnt. You can see that has been very hot. Yeah. I don't know what you can say about it really. Let's just take that out. So there's the loom there. I need to make him another loom. And then what I do is, once I've done the loom, I tend to run it up through the little hole on the base of the gear stick here, out through the top. And then when I've got it the right sort of length, I wrap tape around here to hold it in tight. But look where it's melted onto the bottom of the gaiter. Hasn't gone right the way through. There is a mark on the gaiter. There's nothing we can really do about that. So yes, once you've got the gear switch on the top, let's put that there again. Once you've got the gear switch on the top and everything is in place, then you can pull the gaiter down, wrap tape around here to hold the wires tight onto the gear stick. Because I strongly suspect that this has failed where it goes through the gear stick. That's more or less where the melting has started. If you look at the length of the wiring, it's around here. That's obviously the top end. Got it upside down. Yeah, that's a mess. That's horrible, isn't it? Oh dear. I have seen it before, where the wiring's melted through, but what I've seen before has been that it's just popped the fuse instantly. And in this case, it hasn't popped the fuse. Now, let's have a look at the fuse. The customer did provide the fuse for me. And it's a 35 amp. Is that a... That's the wrong type of fuse, I think. If it's a wire, no, it's a sheet of metal in there. It's the wrong type of fuse. I've relocated to the bench because this is actually a f***ing horror story. I'm sorry to swear there, folks, but this is a f***ing horror story. Sworn twice now. That's 2 F's for me to edit out. Now, first and foremost, someone has used either domestic or speaker wire. You can see it's got some weird strands and so forth in here. And in all honesty, it's probably saved the loom. Allow me to explain. Workshop manual, repair operations manual. This is the Haynes version. I've kind of taken it all out because it all fell apart years ago, so I've put it into loose leaf folders. If we go to section 10, chapter 10, electrical systems, in this chapter we've got a really, really nice breakdown. Let's just adjust the camera slightly. Really nice breakdown of the fuses. Okay? Fuses are there to protect the circuit, okay? And if we look down at fuse 19 and 20, which is for the overdrive, it should be 10 amps. Now, this is a British car. It runs on the Lucas wiring system, okay? Lucas fuses are different to American fuses, even though they look very, very, very similar. So, a Lucas fuse is designed to blow at a rating. Now what I'm going to do is, rather than me waffling, I'm actually going to read from a really nice web page. Let me just open my phone up a second. Really nice web page I found, which is on the Triumph TR6 info page. And it talks about automotive electrical fuses, British versus American. So British and American standards for rating electrical fuses are different. This is important, folks. Listen. Both provide an amp rating for very similar looking fuses, but the two ratings mean very different things. The US system rates the fuse based on the continuous load it can handle for a specified period of time without blowing, while the British system expresses the load at which the fuse will immediately blow. There is a significant difference. As an example, the 35 amp fuse called out for many British vintage cars, so Lotuses, Triumphs, etc., 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 is roughly equivalent to the US spec 17 amp fuse. So a 35 amp UK Lucas fuse will be equivalent to a 17 amp-ish fuse. I think it's 17.5 last time I worked it out. American spec fuse. If you've got a circuit that needs a 35 amp fuse, don't put an American 35 amp fuse in it. You might as well put a fucking nail in it. Right, so there's that. So then what we've got is there's a nice little section on here. I'll see if I can screen grab this and insert it in. And it gives you the different ratings of the British fuse versus the American continuous rated fuses. So we're looking at a blow rated fuse that needs to go into the UK spec cars. Now, these blow rated fuses, they're not widely available. So if you were to go to your local motor factor, they're not going to be able to sell you they'll sell you a continuous rated fuse. Oh yeah, it's a barrel rated fuse, it says 35 amps on it. No, this is if I could get this out of here, because this is the fuse that was in the car. I'm just going to see if I can get the end cap off it. If I can get the end cap off, there we are, that's just made a fucking great mess there. And in here, I'm going to clear this glass up in a second, folks. I mean, I can't even fucking snap it. In here is a very thick, I'm just going to chop it, just so I can see. And then peel the paper back. Look at the thickness of that fuse. So that's a 35 amp continuous rated fuse for an American system, not a UK system. UK 35 amp fuse, I'm not going to break this because they're expensive, is literally a piece of wire. It's about the thickness of a hair. Maybe you can see the difference? I don't know. Maybe you can see the difference. Right, so there's some stupidity there on selecting, or let's say ignorance, let's be generous. There's some ignorance on the rating of the fuse. So it's been incorrectly specified between a Lucas blow rated fuse and a American continuous rated fuse. However, bearing in mind it was a 35 amp American continuous rated fuse that was fitted, if we look at the fuse rating for the Overdrive, 10 amps blow rated. Well, I think we can see why the fuse didn't blow. Like I say, you might as well put a nail in it. Oh, for heaven's sake. So, I buy these fuses. Any decent UK-based automotive supplier should be able to provide you with decent rated fuses. So, as you've already seen, the equivalent 35 amp fuse, blow rated fuse, is a strand of wire, not a blade. I've seen other fuses, so there's a classic example. This is one on my other side here. I'll keep the wrong fuses here. So that is listed as that's a 25 amp fuse. I don't know if you can see, if I rotate around, I've got the light on it now, so you might be able to see that. You can see how thick that fuse is. That's a continuous rated fuse, American spec fuse, not a Lucas blow rated fuse. Do not use fuses like that. They're the wrong rating. So if the system says put in a 25 amp fuse, and you put that fuse in, well, you might as well put a nail in there. Okay? Now, the reason why I think the speaker wire has saved the loom is because that is rated at significantly less than the majority of the loom, and also less than the 35 amp continuous rating of the fuse, which should be 10 amps blow rated. So that's why it's done that, rather than just popping the fuse instantly. I am still going to need to assess the loom, where it certainly goes to the relay, and from the fuse board to find out if any of this heat has travelled into the loom and melted it. Because the danger is going to be that if one of these wires melts, and you can see it's a classic example, if one of these wires melts, it melts the insulation, and then you end up with a dead short between the two wires. That, folks, is a disaster. Could have been a shitload worse, but that is a disaster. I've got other rated fuses in here. So these are all the wrong. These are all American spec fuses on this side. Let's get that bag out of there. These are all American spec fuses. They're all completely wrong for a British classic car. More often than not. So buy your fuses from a reputable source. And if you're going to convert, even worse, if you're going to convert to one of the blade fuse boxes, which seems to be a common modification, don't assume 35 amps or 10 amps or whatever, blow rated, is right for a blade fuse. You need to work that out, which is why I don't like it. Rant over. Right, now I'm going to go through and double check every other fuse is the correct rating against the ROM and is also a Lucas British fuse rather than an American spec continuous rated fuse. This is, unfortunately, it's quite a common problem because most motor factors out there, high street motor factors, you know, the one that starts with an H and ends with Alfords, will sell you an American spec continuous rated fuse and not a blow rated fuse. And you'll be thinking, oh yeah, that looks nice, great, I'll pop that in, circuit fuse doesn't blow again. You think, fantastic. No, your loom is just cooking itself from the inside to the outside. Oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear, oh dear. Anyway, I think we escaped a bullet with that one. Hopefully. Now, if the loom's damaged, I'm going to have to isolate. Well, let's see if the loom's damaged first of all. It doesn't look damaged on the two yellow wires that are down here. So when you get a heat damaged wire, it will very often, if you look at this, you can see where the insulation has melted. And you can see the strands of the wire through the insulation. And I rather hope that when this went up, it treated this like a very, very slow burning fuse rather than the rest of the loom. But heat will have travelled down the rest of the loom. I had a problem with my Stag years and years and years ago now, but the wiper blade on the passenger side, the spindle there is a weak point. This one looks very nice. Mine now, I've got a later style which has got a screw in the middle there, which clamps the wiper arm on much more tightly onto the spindle, onto the wheel box. And what happened was it just started raining, oddly enough, at the top end of the road where my estate is. But before I had a unit here, that wiper stuck up here. That one came back down again. They got tangled up and jammed, and the wiper motor stopped. Well, the wiper motor kept trying to turn them, but obviously couldn't. I pulled over, turned the engine off, realised the fuse hadn't popped, the wiper motor was smouldering, and shortly after that I had a problem with the ballast Eureka wire that goes to the ignition coil, because it joins onto the white wire on the back of the fuse board, which is the same as the wire that goes to the wiper motor. So heat had travelled up the loom and damaged the connection to the Eureka wire, because the Eureka wire was going to be of a lower resistance than the white wire that it was connected to. So that was where the heat went to. I said, do you know what, I'm going to chomp away on that. And I ended up with a ballast resistor Eureka wire issue, whereby my car would run for exactly 4 miles and then start misfiring like a bastard. Yeah. So when you get a situation like this, where the wire has done that, you really need to investigate further and find out how far the loom that's actually gone. Oh dear. I mean, it probably wouldn't have been quite so bad had an American spec 10 amp fuse gone in there. And I'm sort of wondering if this is a long-standing problem where the fuse kept bowing on the overdrive and someone thought, you know what, let's put a fucking nail in there. And while we're at it, let's go back to my black museum over here of artifacts. This is the fuse box that came out of a Series 3 Land Rover, the one with the 200 TDI engine in it that I did yonks and yonks and yonks ago. And that there, chaps, that's the fuse box out of it. And that fuse that's in there is actually a solid metal rod. And that's exactly where it sat and exactly how it sat. You can even see that underneath, no, it has actually started to melt the plastic. So, yes. The loom on this thing, where it went through the bulkhead, was just a molten mass, because someone had decided to put an 8mm rod in there rather than a fuse. So stupid things happen. Right, hope that explains things. you're all going to be rushing out now and checking your fuse boxes and making sure you've got the correct rating. Unfortunately, there's no easy way of identifying from the outside whether that is the correct rating or not, other than the overall thickness of the blade. So here we've got... Oh, here's an interesting one. So this is a 25 amp continuous rated fuse. Okay, American spec continuous rating. And on there it's got 50 amp blow rating. So what do you think a 35 amp continuous rated fuse is going to be the blow rating of? Got to be 60 plus amps, isn't it? Right, quick Google here, and there's Access Norton website thing here. So it's fuse 35 amp melted holder. Why did it not blow? Access Norton Motorcycle Forum. Okay, this is back in March 2017. And someone's come back here, 35 amp continuous rated fuse, which is rated to a 70 amp blow. That's instead of a 10 amp blow fuse rated fuse. So if your fuses are blowing, folks, work out why they're blowing. Don't just put a nail in there or an 8mm bolt. Oh, God help us. It's worrying, really, isn't it? I mean, the whole damn thing could have gone up in smoke. The customer was saying he was driving through Marlow High Street, and all of a sudden smoke started pouring out of his gear stick holder. He didn't know what to do. So he turned the engine off, and of course then he's cut the ignition supply to the feed for the overdrive switch, and contacted me, and I said pull the fuse, which he did. But really shouldn't have happened. A 10 amp blow rated fuse would have popped instantly. That's just insane. Right, onwards. Stop grumbling about it, Richard. So what I'm going to need to do now is to extract every single one of the fuses from the fuse box and make a note as to whether they are the correct rating to start off with, and then guess, I think, whether they are a continuous or a blow rated fuse that's gone in there, American spec or a UK spec. There we are, folks. Just make sure you're using the right fuses. The other thing I need to do, of course, is have a look at the switch and see if the switch has suffered. And that switch has been hot, hasn't it? I've been through the fuse board, and all of those fuses that are hanging out are the incorrect rated fuse. It's not as horrific as it looks, but it's not right. Why do it? So if I look then at the lid of the fuse box, the top fuse up here, battery control, should be 35 amp blow rated Lucas fuse, and there's actually 15 amp blow rated fuse in there. Okay, that's worse than it should be, as in that fuse will blow easier than perhaps it should have done. So I can put a 35 amp blow rated fuse back in there. The second fuse, which is the ignition control fuse, 35 amp blow rated, and it has got a 35 amp blow rated fuse. And whoever did this has found the same source of fuses that I use. So these ones with the nice blue wrapping around them. So that's a good one. That's a beauty. Oh, by the way, the battery is disconnected at this point, folks. Number 3, which is the parking lights. I don't think we've got parking lights on this because it's a Mark II Stag. But it should be 5 amp, 20 amp blow rated fuse in there. Number 4, which is the side lights, tail lights, should be 10 amp blow rated. It's got 20 amp blow fuse in it. Fuse 5 or 9 and 10 on this thing. It's just blank. It shouldn't have any fuse in it at all. We've got 35 amp fuse in there, blow rated. Fuse 6, which is the main beam, and I think that's the main beam right hand, should be 25. It's got 35. Main beam left hand should be 25. It's got 35. 8 when we're going into the dip beam, so 8 and 9 are dip beam. They should be 10 amp blow rated. One's got a 50 amp blow rated, one's got a 25 amp blow rated fuse in it. Fuse 10, which is the wiper motor, and this is also the one that on the unfused side of this, the white wire comes off the unfused side of this fuse and goes to the Eureka wire somewhere about here, which is the problem that I just mentioned. That should be 15 amp blow rated. It's got a 25 amp blow rated fuse in there. Okay, the heater motor should be 25 amp blow rated. It's got a 35 amp blow rated fuse in there. And lastly, the overdrive, the one that started this whole investigation, should be 10 amp blow rated, and it had a 35 amp continuous. I'm going to guess around the 70 amp blow rating on that fuse there. So I've messaged the customer because I am genuinely concerned now at the danger, the risk that this could have caused when this went. Because the heat will have travelled back through the loom. Now, the next thing I am going to do is I'm going to take the parcel shelf out because I want to see what's going on the back of the fuse relay board. I might need to take the glove box out as well. You can see on this one here, that bullet has melted. But the wire looks intact. Now, it's a fairly heavy duty wire here. One of these wires is the feed. I think the yellow wire is the feed. The yellow and purple wire is the one that goes to the overdrive. So the yellow and purple I'm less bothered about. What I might need to do is put additional fuses between here and the overdrive to protect the circuit. What we don't know, of course, is how far this damage has gone into the loom, which runs up that side of the, and then across the bulkhead to the relay panel behind the fuse box here. And you can see here where the melting wire had burnt itself into the underside of the leather gaiter. Right, so next step, get this very nicely trimmed parcel shelf out and see if we can see what's going on then and take it from there. Here in the Haynes Workshop Manual, so we're looking at the wiring diagram, right-hand drive, steering with heater from commission LD 2001. And what we've effectively got here, 94, these are two ignition controlled relays. And this relay on the left here, the one I've got my finger on the tip of, that does a couple of things. That does the overdrive circuit, and it also does the window lift. Okay, so the window lift goes through a circuit breaker first and foremost, which we probably need on the overdrive bloody circuit, don't we really? So from that relay, which is an ignition controlled relay, there's two slate wires come off it. The slate wire goes up to the back of that fuse for the overdrive, and then from that fuse a yellow wire goes to the switch, and then from the switch it becomes yellow and purple, which goes down to the overdrive. So the overdrive is on the earth side. So really I'm looking for damage in the loom that goes between that slate wire on the relay, but realistically, because the fuse didn't blow, I suspect that we're really looking for damage from the fuse to the overdrive switch in the footwell. So, okay, right. So we have got the back of the relay panel, and we've got the back of the fuse box up here. And this is the relay I was just mentioning. So it's got a brown wire that comes directly from the battery. We've got two grey wires. We've got the white signal wire, which is the wire that would come from the ignition, unfused ignition controlled circuit. And we've got an earth wire. So it's very similar to a standard looking relay. The output is the two grey wires. The input is the brown wire. The switch or trigger wire is the white wire. And the black is obviously an earth because relays need an earth wire. Okay, so these two grey wires, one goes to up here on the back of this fuse here. Oh, I do love the sight of a chock block, don't you? Don't you love a chock block? When you see a chock block, doesn't it just fill your fucking heart with joy on a white unfused wire? Anyway, the grey wire comes from the back of this relay, goes to the back of this fuse here, the unfused side, and off the top of that fuse, you can just about see it, there's a yellow wire. See that yellow wire up there? Don't confuse it with this yellow wire, which is, again, that's more gibbonry. That yellow wire is the loom wire that goes from here, comes round to here. I think that's that one. I can't see because it's all kind of bound up in there. Yes, I think that is. That wire there is the wire then that ultimately goes back to the gear stick. And I can't feel any imperfections in the insulation of that wire. This yellow wire comes off the unfused side of the battery control box. We've had an absolute genius involved in the wiring on this car at some point, haven't we? Really have had an absolute genius. And someone's had the horn relay apart as well. That's the horn relay, that chappy there. I think that one's the heater. This one does window lift and overdrive. I think that's the heater. I'll double check in a second. And then we've got flasher units. I don't know what that fucker is down there. It's not standard. Oh, it's a relay with a bent pin. Just don't look, Richard. Just don't look. I think the switch is fucked. It doesn't surprise me. So I've connected up the continuity setting on my multimeter. So I've got the overdrive in. You see it's not going to a clean closed circuit. Open circuit goes, but then if I push the button, no, open circuit. It just feels a bit shit. Let's, because the switch has got screws on it. So let's take the screws apart and see what happens. Otherwise, it might be a case of whizzing out to see if I can get another switch. Tony White is actually not far away from where I operate now. So there's one screw there. One screw there. It's got screws on it. It's designed to be taken apart. Might just be, though, that all I'm going to do is take the switch off the main housing. It might be that I can't get any further, and I can't. Soot and bloody shite all over the place. It is actually starting to feel like it might work. Let me get some contact cleaner in there. We'll keep working at it and see where we get to. A load of wiggling it backwards and forwards and contact cleaner and that just worked just now. Alright, okay, now we're working. It's intermittent, isn't it? And now it's not working at all. Getting nothing now. Yeah, that's toast, isn't it, really? No. Yes. There we are. Oh, it's broken anyway. It's melted in there. Completely melted. All melted. There's a roller in there. There's another pin. And it's all got far too hot. The problem is the nylon. So this nylon casing here it's got a ramp at this end. So when the switch is in the off position, the wheel, this wheel, rises up on the ramp and disconnects itself from this pin and this pin. So these pins are part of a common circuit. So because that rises itself up off the ramp, it breaks the continuity between that and that circuit. As I put the switch into the on position, there should be no ramp down there. However, there's a huge great lump of melted plastic down there, and I think that's all that's happened, is it has just melted the plastic at one end of it. And if I push the switch down, then it was kind of working. I'm going to see if I can't shave a bit off it. It's possible that what's happened is the heat here has allowed this bit here to move downwards. I can't get another overdrive switch, but I do want to check that the circuits and everything are working. So what I've actually done here is I have added a fuse, a discrete fuse underneath the column here. I'm going to start with a 10 amp fuse in there. The idea being that if there is another problem, it will blow the fuse a damn sight closer to the gear stick than all the way over there. So I popped a 10 amp fuse in there. I want to check that everything else is working. And just position that down roughly. I'm going to take the fuse out because obviously I don't have a switch. So we're going to have to just put the switch over the top of this for the time being. And stupid immobiliser. Right, there we go, immobiliser. And if I touch these together, nothing. Third gear, all good. Fourth gear, good. Radio's on. Go off radio. First gear, second gear, nothing. Third, fourth, and reverse. Right, so inhibit switch is working. Let's turn that off for a second. Inhibit switch is working, which is good. I think what I could probably do is, because I'm going to put the switch back on the underside of this, I could probably actually screw everything up and leave the fuse in place, couldn't I? Because that is going to sit in there like that. I might need to just double check that the insulation is working on this. So that goes up there, that goes up there. Pull the wires down and click. Oh, switches back to front, fucking thing. Pull the wires down there and click the switch cover back in place again, which I've done. Right, now fucking immobiliser again. Effectively what you have to do with this immobiliser is take the key right out and just put it back in again. Right, okay. Right, well the circuit's definitely dead. Handbrake light is flashing on and off. I think that'll be okay actually. Right, it does mean that I can put the screws and so forth back in this centre console, and all I really need to do when I replace the switch is pull the gator down on this side over here. Ignition off now. On this side here you can see where the wires come out, so all I would do is, once the switch and everything is in place, I would put some tape around there. Okay, pull it nice and tight so that the tape holds the wires in place, and then push it all back together again. But for the time being, I think that should do the job. At least the interior is back together again, but we don't have overdrive. Okay? Just before the end credits, give me a thumbs up if you liked that. Give me a thumbs down if you didn't. Mind you, you've got all the way to the end of it, so you probably would have given me a thumbs down by now anyway. Comments down below. All of these things do help to promote the work that I do and promote to YouTube for your benefit. If you want to contact me, churchhouseclassics, it's all one word, @gmail.com. And if you want to support the channel, then there's a PayPal me link scrolling down here. Both my email and the PayPal me link are in the description below this video. And that's my car, still sitting here. I might have to change this feature once it gets back on the road. It'll embarrass me enough into getting this back on the road. Anyway, thank you very much for watching.